Yo, check it. Never once did I believe there was equality. I can't breathe, my hands up, so why you follow me? Yo, part of my activist draw. Being a pacifist doesn't help when they blasting us all. Our blocks are permanently hot. What if I told you I'll rock a hoodie cause I won't change, but scared of getting killed by the cops? What if I shot one in the air for every time they murder one of us? It'd be raining cats, dogs, and hollow tips. They're killing our sons and our president won't acknowledge it. It's open season on all of us, poor, middle class, and college kids. They call us traitors and bring that fire to our area. The land of the free if only you meet the certain criteria. Ignited we stand, with fire we fall. Hold the hands of every single rebel. Running from the greedy racist American devil existing on every level. Especially politicians, the joke of a justice system. Military or policemen, I swear you can't tell the difference. Now they pulling up with tanks and them rifles ain't standard issue. Issue, who handles your issues by cocking pistols. It points out black on black crime like we let it do this shit too. Go figure, who you think extracts the metal from the earth and mass produces weapons for us to kill with? No nigga. They've had it their way and will never make it. Ronald Reagan dropped bombs in our hoods and they're still detonating. I've led the nation in ill verses for like 3 years running. Check my track record, I smash records, but I gotta get back to the past. Samurai Jack with a pen and a pad, I'd rather split you in half. They should've never gave us instrumentals, now we're indivisible. Quiz essential at ending individuals with the lyrical. I'll show you the way of the shinobi behind the mic stand. Hit you with 64 palms, 8 trigrams. So pick a song for me to drop you on. I can see through all your bullshit. I got the Byakugan, Hyuga clan with the pen in my hand for some abysmal shit. I'm writing rhymes with the gentle fist.
So, how is Toronto?
Toronto is fucking cold.
It's cold?
Yeah, it's insanely cold here. It's stupid.
Do you have snow?
Not a lot of snow, no, actually, but just really, really cold. The other day it was like minus 22 before the wind chill, and then the wind chill was making it more like minus 35.
Shit, I can't even imagine that. We had like a long fall instead of a winter. First time it has happened here, so I'm not really sure what's going on with the Earth, but it's not good, I think.
No, it definitely seems like the months have shifted, like the seasons have shifted back almost like a full month at this point.
Yeah, maybe that's something to do with global warming. I'm not sure actually, but
global warming, climate change, global cooling, whatever they want to call it. Yeah, it's got whatever's going on there it's definitely.
At least it's not good. It's not good.
No, definitely not. So I see you took my advice and checked out that Mass Effect game, eh?
Yeah, for sure, man. When I heard about it, I was already interested and I bought it, the first game. And you were right, the gameplay wasn't very good, but I really liked the story. And when I found out about the background story of the Citadel, shit, man, freaked me out. Because first I thought it was the Proteans or the progenitors from the Alex Collier material that were behind it, but then turned out the Reapers were actually had something to do with it. So it's really fucked up.
Yeah, and Reapers are an AI system, right? Like it's essentially a inorganic consciousness that rose to power, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah, so within the game you have a lot of speech options, and I would click on all of them because I wanted to find out a lot about them. But when I asked, the character, like, what about the origins of the Reapers, they couldn't answer. So I hope in the other games they will clarify that.
It does, yes. By the time you get to the end of the third game, there is like a definite ending to the whole storyline.
Yes, I already checked that out on the internet. I'm really bad at waiting, but
oh, you spoiled yourself.
Yeah, I spoiled myself. I've seen a few endings, but I'm still gonna play it. I bought the second game actually. It's coming tomorrow, so I'm really interested. What did you do with the council? Did you let them die, or did you keep them alive?
The council, I kept them alive. Yeah.
Me too. Fuck that. I don't want them to die.
It's funny being put in, even though it's a virtual world, being put in that kind of position and actually having to decide for yourself, what do I do here? Do I allow, millions of people to die to save these world leaders, or do I let the world leaders die to save millions of people? It's interesting.
Yeah, they did that very well because I felt very, it was like they were my friends, I don't know how they did it, but yeah, I felt very drawn to it. Felt as if it was real, although the graphics were really shitty.
Yeah, they get a little bit better in the second and third game, as does the gameplay. But
yeah, I saw that. I heard the Mass Effect 2 was the best Xbox game from around that time. So
Yeah, a lot of people do think that for sure.
interesting stuff. Thank you. And I will check that movie out as well. But was it again Neverland or something?
The Never-Ending Story.
Yes, I'm
Is,
gonna check that out as well. You know some. You know some interesting things. You know.
the vocal part at the beginning of my videos, where you hear the young boy talking to his father, that comes from that movie.
Yes, and I asked Shane where it was from, and then he told me. So I saved it somewhere, and I'm gonna watch it one of these days.
There's a really good article by what do they call themselves, Vigilant Citizens, a website that kind of dissects movies for their esoteric meanings and stuff. There's a really good write-up on it too. You should check out after you watch the movie.
I will. I will. Interesting. Yeah, but you have, you know, this things like that are only interpretations of people, and those could differ because, for instance, the Disney movies. I've read multiple theories on those as well, but there doesn't seem to be one interpretation. You know, there are different ones. So when that happens, it's really hard for me to decide what's real or what isn't, because you don't really have I would say proof or something. Only people's stories. That's very hard for me.
It's very hard for all of us, right? Like, I think everyone kind of struggles with that to some extent. That's what we call discernment, is trying to listen to all these different stories and put the pieces together for ourselves, what we think the truth is.
But discernment, man, this is something I had discussions with people from alternative media. You cannot have discernment about, quote unquote normal things. But about stuff like this, how can you have discernment? Because everything is considered, controversial anyway. So that's what they learn you. So for me at least, it's really hard to discern what's real, what's not, because they tell you it's all fake anyway. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I personally, I've said it on an earlier podcast. I kind of keep an open mind to the fact that all of this may be bullshit.
Yeah, true. Because I used to believe certain things, like I was on a certain radio show, and everything they told us and all these sources they gave us, I would believe, and everything that would differ from that, I would, think of as fake. But, I've kind of grown out of that now, and, I adopted the same view as you have, like open-minded to it. I mean, I want to believe there is something there, but I'm not sure what it is anymore. It's so hard.
Fair enough.
And maybe for you, maybe it's easier because you at least say you've seen stuff and you have some evidence, but I have very little evidence. I've seen a few things. We can talk about it later, but for most of the things, I don't have any experience with.
Even with personal experiences, I kind of run this analogy by people sometimes. Like, let's just say you're sitting at home and this giant purple monster walks through your front door.
Yeah, true.
He waves at you, he says hello,
Yeah.
and he turns around and walks out. You have no physical evidence. You didn't have time to take a picture. You don't have any kind of recording of the situation. Nobody was there to witness it with you. How do you explain that to someone else?
And also, you can also think like, because if you see it, you're convinced it's real. But a lot of times, after a few weeks pass, you're gonna doubt your own experience. You're gonna think like, oh, maybe I was just tired, or maybe I drank too much coffee, or whatever. So you're gonna try to rationalize it yourself, even.
Definitely. And I think that's natural. I think that's healthy to do, even if you
It
are,
is.
even
It
if you
is.
were to become sure of the situation. Like, I'm really sure that I saw this. You should
Yeah.
still question that. You shouldn't just blindly even follow your own experiences. Everything should be questioned equally.
True, because otherwise you don't grow. You're gonna be stuck.
Exactly. So for the listeners at home, I think it's about time we kind of introduce you. This is a friend of mine who has been emailing me and messaging me a little bit over the last year of the blog, I guess. I don't know how long exactly it's been, but it's been a little while now.
Since the beginning.
Since the beginning. His name is Rohan.
Yep.
And
Rohan.
why don't you tell people a little bit about yourself? Just a basic summary, nothing too revealing, obviously.
Yes, okay, so my real name is not Rohan, but I would like to, not reveal my name at this time. I'm living in Europe, and I basically have been living a normal life up until my 14th, I think. After that, something happened, and I began to question things more. I began to get really interested in UFOs and ETs out of nothing. I don't know how it happened, but it happened. Um, at some point, I would even, you know, beg them to come down. I would. Yeah, it's really weird, but I did this once, and I actually noticed myself doing it. It was like I didn't have control over it. It was really strange. After that, I found Ancient Aliens on the web, and I watched a lot of that. From there, I began my journey. I for a while I believed in all the new age shit, like channeling, all that crazy bullshit. From there, I ended up in this really well-known group. Like I said earlier, I believed everything they said. I would check all their sources. Through them, I found Shane as well. But at some point, nothing really happened. There were a lot of promises, a lot of stories, but I didn't see any result or something. And then I slowly but surely grow out of it and to basically focus on myself and try to make the best of my life. And now I'm here because I'm still interested in this stuff, but not that serious about it anymore, as you will.
Fair enough. What do you do in your day-to-day life? Like, what are your hobbies and interests?
Well, when I was younger, I had a big fantasy, big sense of fantasy. And I think I use that nowadays to, watch a lot of movies, read. I do other things as well. I go to the gym because I have a lot of energy. I'm really impatient as well. And I have an office job. So those two things don't really go well with each other. So in order for me to release some energy, I go to the gym. And yeah, that's what I do basically. Those are my hobbies.
Nice. What's your favorite kind of genre of music?
Well, I grew up with hip hop, with rap music. I really like that. And you have like experimental hip hop. I like. You have the rough gangster shit. I like it as well. But when I got older, I began to listen to rock music, metal, soul, R&B. I basically listen to everything.
Cool. What do you think attracts you the most to music? Like, what element of music is it that excites you the most?
Well, now lyrics, but when I was younger and I didn't speak English that well, some numbers just got me. I don't know what it is. I begin to notice a pattern now. There are certain songs that really get me emotionally, but I don't know what it is. It isn't that the lyrics are good or something, but it's just the energy. It's like songs with a strong energy, like fight energy. I won't give up, blah blah blah. Guitars, screaming, shit like that. So I think it's that.
Cool. The song off the top that people listening at home would have heard was sent to me by Rohan here. Cool track. The lyrics are great. I suggest, even if it's not your cup of tea musically, to try and pick out the lyrics there, because there's a nice little message in there. And I like the vibe of the track. It's got that kind of old school hip hop, very well mixed, very well produced.
Yeah, it's really good. Do you like hip hop?
A little bit. I'm kind of, people call me a bit of a hip hop poser because I tend to like the bigger names. I enjoy listening to Eminem rap as an example. I think he's hilarious, so I enjoy that, even though I get the kind of dark side behind the messages that he's putting out as well, with the Rain Man and everything else. But I really like Dr. Dre's production style a lot, and I think that's probably why I like a lot of Eminem's music as well, because Dr. Dre produces a lot of it. So.
Right. When I heard you, I couldn't really point out what you would like, but then I saw you on this video conversation with someone, and you had long hair, I saw, and a beard. So I don't know. I calculated you more as a maybe rock kind of guy, but I was wrong. Humans tend to judge on someone's appearance, right?
Yep, I am mostly into the heavier rock or hard rock, almost heavy metal. I sing for bands. I have sang for a pure metal band where it was just all straight screaming. And then the harder rock bands that I sing for now are a combination of some screaming and some singing. I started off actually doing like musicals and plays and stuff like that in school, and I had an uncle who, when karaoke first became a thing, he would do kind of karaoke nights where he bought the equipment, he would go around, he would put on karaoke nights. But he was also a very good singer, so for like the end of the night, he would essentially just sing to karaoke tracks. And my family had kind of, made a big deal of it. Everyone was really excited. I was young and impressionable, so I kind of wanted to follow his footsteps because I wanted that, I wanted people to realize that I was a good singer too. So I had kind of copied a bunch of the songs that he would do. He used to sing like Unchained Melody a lot, so I learned that, and Candle in the Wind by Elton John, I learned that. Things like that, Moon Dance, these old songs like Brown Eyed Girl, stuff like that was kind of the generations before me. And another thing that he was really big into was country music, and this is when country music was, or new country music was actually new. You had artists like Garth Brooks and Travis Tritt and Vince Gill and guys like that, where now they still call it new country, even though it's been around for almost 30 years now. Kind of ridiculous. From there, I moved into, I think I said it in the other podcast as well, Bon Jovi, which is kind of like a rock band, right? And kind of got me into that a little bit heavier.
This is
vibe
my
of music.
life.
Yeah.
It's now or never.
When I was into it was before that particular album. I think I stopped listening around 93, 94 ballpark, but is still really big fan. He's an amazing singer, so I was really impressed by his vocal range and the textures of his voice and all the different nuances that he put on his singing. So that was a huge inspiration for me. And then right around the time I was a teenager, I was kind of getting out of the programs and whatnot, and a lot of pent-up aggression, let's say, and that's kind of what got me into the heavier styles of music. Like I really like Nine Inch Nails, bands like Tool. Pretty much anything Maynard does, I'm a big fan because he's one of my favorite singers. But yeah, that's kind of been my own progression. And now it's kind of funny because I sing for bands and I write music, and I have a hard time listening to music. I really don't. I don't put it on for pleasure anymore. It's almost like I've ruined that part of myself. It's a little disappointing.
Because they are like competition or something.
Not quite. What it started as was I was worried about the influence rubbing off on me.
Oh, yeah, right.
Like if I listen to a lot of...
You're going to copy them naturally or something.
Exactly. That's what I was worried about. So I'd kind of, whenever I was writing songs, I would deliberately not listen to anything new. And
that's why you listen to hip-hop now, because hip-hop could never influence your rock music.
Well, exactly. I cannot rap. It sounds so bad. Like,
yo, the ruiner.
Things just ain't the same for gangsters. I don't have that in me.
MC Schmiegel, I heard you talking the other day. It was really creepy.
The rating pool is nice and cool. Fish is sweet. Catch a fish, so juicy sweet. Yeah, like, but yeah, you're right. It doesn't. It never really influences me because I know I can't rap. So
yeah, true. Weird, man. I had a big fuck up the other day with Bon Jovi. So David Bowie died, right?
Yep.
So I was telling my mom, "Oh, mom, did you hear about David Bowie? He died, right?" I feel so sorry because there was this song I really like for him. This is my life. But I thought the Bon Jovi song was from David Bowie. My mother was a big David Bowie fan. I think everyone is. So when I told it to her, she was, oh man, shit.
That's funny.
It was really fucked up, yes.
Question: did you have anything weird around the time David Bowie died? I know for myself personally, I was watching the movie The Martian the night before, and when they played Space Odyssey on the movie, I had immediately gone to my laptop and downloaded pretty much the entire David Bowie discography.
Really?
And then the next morning he was dead, so I thought that was pretty interesting. I've heard a lot of things like that from other people where they were either talking about him within a couple days of him passing or directly the night before. So anything like that with you?
No, I'm not that big of a David Bowie fan actually, but when I searched him up after he died, I know it's a shame, but at least I'm showing some attention at least. I saw he looked pretty weird, and what I thought was really interesting was the time he did all those things, the transgender shit and the gay things. it was around the 60s, 70s, right? So he must have had a revolutionary influence on that time, I think. So I feel like a lot of people from that time, you know, still remember him. He had somehow he had an impact on that time period, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of performers kind of got a lot from him because he transcended some boundaries for us, right? Like,
Yeah, maybe.
I'm personally not a huge fan of his music. I mean, there's a few tracks out there that I absolutely love and I
With Mick
respect.
Jagger, I like the song with Mick Jagger. That's what I like. Dancing on the street or something like
Yeah,
that. Yeah. I really
that's a
like
good
that
one.
one. Yeah, but when it comes down to music, I know a lot of bands and artists, but I also don't. Like I told you before, I work at a music company. I won't name any names, but so they, all my coworkers are big fans of music. They know everything about the whole history of music. So they were playing this song from Ray Charles, and they asked me if I knew it or something like that, and I told them I didn't, and they began cursing because you're supposed to know who that is. It's supposedly this big artist, who had a big influence as well. So that's a good example of how my music knowledge works because I don't have a lot of it.
It's funny, neither do I. There's a lot of artists out there that I've never heard and couldn't name you a song by. It's
So
funny.
I'm not the only one.
No, you're not alone. So what topics in this alternative community have been interesting you these days?
These days, well, I'm still very interested in the ET topic. I'm not sure why, but like I told you, when I was 14, 15, something happened, and I just felt very drawn to it and obsessive almost, and that led me to finding ancient aliens and stuff like that, and watching and reading a lot of stuff about the subject. And you have also all these other things like mind control, chemtrails, dimensions, and stuff like that. But those things, you know, I left them behind a little bit because I felt like they influenced too much. They influenced my mind too much, in a bad sense. I began to become too paranoid and shit. It wasn't working for me.
Did you notice problems in like your interpersonal relationships with other people? Like,
Sure,
yeah,
my mind works very different. I tend to think very deep anyway, too deep almost. And when I got exposed to all these topics, I would delve too deep into them, and I would see things. I would, you know what I mean? In my daily life, I would go too deep into things, so I would question everything, literally everything, and it shaped my perception as well. To really, really fucked up. So I got out of that. I got out of that because it just didn't benefit me at all.
I understand totally. It's important for us to kind of stay in tune with the rest of reality. You know, that mainstream reality that we were all caught up in before we started learning about any of these subjects. You can't forget about it just because you see another side to the world. You have to, in my opinion, anyways, you have to look at both sides in order to stay balanced.
Yes, and that's what I didn't do. And now I feel like indeed I'm more balanced, but I'm still not where I want to be. And I tend to look into subjects I only like. So at some point, I would know a lot. I would know a lot of things about all these weird topics, but I wouldn't know shit about normal things. That you're supposed to know. You know what I mean, like politics or money shit and stuff. So I'm working on that now. I'm like more in a grounding process.
Well, it's good. It's a good thing to do. 'Cause I do the same. Like as an example, one of my big inspirations for doing this is actually listening to Joe Rogan's podcasts, which
Yes, man. Yeah, Joe Rogan rocks.
I think a lot of people listening to this will think that not have a very high opinion of Joe Rogan, which is perfectly fair.
No, but you know what? Even Joe Rogan, I feel like has something. He feels there's more, but he's just too cynical sometimes, and that's what he has a very strong appearance. So that's what people see at first, and that draws them away from him. But if they would stay longer and they would listen to him, you would see, or maybe not, I don't know, but I see at least that there is something with him. I don't know. It's a really interesting guy.
Yeah, what I notice is like those people who aren't really into any of these topics and are kind of very solid in their view of the world can listen to Joe Rogan and start to ask questions. It's kind of like a gateway drug to opening your mind.
Yeah, literally, because he talks a lot about drugs as well.
He does, yeah.
DMT.
He does. He's almost famous for talking about things like magic mushrooms and marijuana and
I've done them.
yep. As have I.
It's interesting.
Yeah, you had mentioned earlier experience around the time you were 14 that kind of started all of this for you. I'm kind of curious about that. Would you be interested in
Yes,
telling me a little story?
the first experience I had was what I told you earlier about, wanting the aliens to come down, and I didn't know why I wanted that. Wasn't even exposed to any alternative media stuff yet, so it was really strange. But when I was 16, 17, and I knew more about this kind of stuff, I began to see orbs in the sky. And I know what you're thinking now because, I looked into it a lot, so maybe I was seeing things that weren't there. And I was thinking that too at the time. I was thinking like, oh, maybe it are satellites. Because it were really orbs. They weren't making any noise, making weird directions sometimes, whatever. But at some point I would see formations as well. And I saw orbs at daylight. So then I knew like, okay, this isn't normal. And I had one experience with a friend of mine who isn't really into this kind of stuff. We were walking on the streets, and we saw this green light hovering above us, above the houses, very low, and it moved very slowly past by us without making any noise. And that was kind of like my big experience. I don't doubt anymore there is more, but it's just that I'm not sure about the context, because there's so much shit on the internet. You just can't know what's real, even with you. I want to believe you, but I can't be sure. It's so hard for me. But like I told you, I tended to believe a certain angle of that community for a long time, but I had to let go of it because it just didn't benefit me.
Well, that's good. It's good that you identified that because a lot of people tend not to identify that sometimes delving into all of this material can have a negative effect on your psyche. And that's something we need to be aware of because there is, like you said, there's a lot of bullshit out there.
A lot of bullshit.
Nobody should be believing anybody flat out. Even definitely like myself, anyone, don't take our word for it. It either resonates with some experiences you have or some knowledge that you have, or it doesn't. And if it doesn't, then all it is just a possibility.
And here's something I want to ask you and I want the listeners to think about, okay? So, and I don't want to offend anything with the following. Okay, so why are the people who are contactees or who have this kind of information always the hippie guys? Always the old guys with the long gray hair and the beards, or always the quote unquote nerds who were already interested in video games and sci-fi, who come out with this kind of information. Why is that? Because they will say, oh, it's a coincidence, blah blah blah, or when you notice like their contactee story is very, very familiar to particular movies like Star Wars, they will say like, yeah, Steven Spielberg was influenced by ETs, blah blah blah. But you could also think the more logical way of looking at this, like they just copied this shit. They already like the fucking ET subject, sci-fi, or they were already into conspiracy theories. And they just decided to fool us for whatever reason, right?
Yep, and it's extremely easy. I mean, that's actually why I put the Mass Effect out there, was because if you look at Mass Effect, it really does touch on all of these topics. It really does kind of give a detailed explanation of all of these topics. And That's an Illuminati creation. So obviously that's something that they want in your consciousness, and you have to ask yourself why.
Yeah, but this is what I mean. So, okay, for everyone who isn't familiar with games, you have this race within the game called the Proteans, and they supposedly, were responsible for uh, the existence of all the races within the game. Okay, and they vanished at some point. Doesn't that sound very familiar to the progenitors? That story from Alex Collier, and I think you mentioned it as well, and others. You know what I mean? I draw that line then, and if I ask someone about it, they will say, "Yeah, the maker of Mass Effect was influenced by ETs or blah blah." But I see it differently. I tend to think like it was made up or something.
Well, it could be either way, right? Like that's why I said it's a good question.
Yeah. Do you agree? The most logical way to look at it would be like they copied it from that story instead of the maker was influenced by this person or that person.
Absolutely. I definitely agree with that, that is the most logical and reasonable way to look at these things.
True, and not saying again that what you're saying isn't true. I mean, I'm open for that for sure, but I feel like people are not looking at the option I just laid out at all. And I've talked about it a few times at different forums, but people are not willing to look at it at all. I think that's crazy.
I agree with you, and it's actually a big part of myself. I also kind of push we really need to look at. Like I say, I kind of detach from all of this, even my own experiences, and look at myself as an external observer. I could read that blog that I wrote and go, "This guy's fucking out to lunch, and he's clearly just making shit up and pulling shit out of sci-fi and making a story out of it." So I do think that is a process that we should all go through, whether you resonate fully with the person right off the bat or not. Like again, with Mass Effect, there's a lot of names in there even that we use that kind of like that game came out before we started using the name. For listeners, the human military in that game is called the Alliance.
Yeah, it sounds familiar.
Sounds very familiar. They use orbs to travel.
Yeah.
Very familiar. The basic storyline is what is happening is this inorganic race is coming along, and every 50,000 years, essentially harvesting all the organic races, which again falls into the harvest and a lot of other terminology and mythos that we have within the alternative community.
Yep. I noticed that as well, and I think people should question stuff like that. Also, if they watch Star Wars or Star Trek or whatever. But a lot of people are not willing to do it, and I just kind of gave up on trying to point that out to other people because, what the problem is with people in alternative media is they say they're open-minded and they're calling other people sheeple, but I think that's first off a lie, an illusion, because it's like you're thinking you're above someone because you know something. And second, you don't even know if it's true. Maybe it's like a cage in a cage thing, you know what I mean? So that's the big problem. There's a lot of people have big egos and are not willing to, look outside of their paradigm. It's a big problem, I think.
It becomes almost like another religion for some people.
Yeah, it's exactly a religion. I've used that terminology as well a few times. I said this becoming a religion, like a cult. No. It's in your oh my God. This time, this guy told me I was an Illuminati agent. Oh my God. Then I knew like you are out of your mind, man. What the fuck? I'm in my early 20s. What the fuck are you talking about?
I've actually had someone tell me that you are a government shill.
Yeah, I know, and I know whatever, man. But I'm in my early 20s. How am I supposed to do? I don't even know shit about political shit. Nothing, I think it's crazy. So that particular person is kind of like I was. You're going too far with things. It's okay to question things, and if you know shit, okay, but don't take it too far. But because now it's affecting is his daily life. Basically, you have to look clearly at things. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I think that's a big problem.
I totally agree. I think that like I keep saying, always questioning ourselves at every turn is important.
Yeah, maybe I am an Illuminati agent, but maybe I don't know it myself. Who
I guess
knows? Maybe.
based on our own mythos, I guess that's completely potential, right? Like
Yeah, it could
I've had
be.
people say the same thing about me, that he's programmed and he doesn't know it. Well, I live a healthy life outside of all of this. You know, this is something that I do, but I have a job, I have a girlfriend, I have a family, I have people in my life that are friends, I have other hobbies outside of all of this, and I don't think that I could accomplish being a full-time Illuminati disinfo agent and work, 48 to 60 hours a week.
No, of course, because you're still living life. You know, it's just a little part of your existence. What you're doing now. If it absorbs people, sometimes it becomes their identity. I'm this. I'm a contactee. I am that. It's just stupid, I think.
Yep, and it causes, like, kind of what you're pointing to is the fact that it's kind of caused rifts between people. People end up actually, disliking each other or fighting or arguing amongst themselves over these things, where if you were to adopt that more healthy, it could all be bullshit attitude, you would start looking at other people while they're speaking and telling their stories as, instead of something that you have to believe this, you have to accept all they're saying, you can take it in as a possibility.
Yes, and there's also this other thing. You have also groups or people saying no, you don't are basically saying the same things as you are, but the underlying tone is still the same. So they're saying like, yeah, we're open-minded, you don't have to listen, blah blah. But the way they say things or the way things go in their communities are still like, okay, you have to believe us, blah blah blah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. I see the same.
I think it's fucked up. So, I had a question for you because given your background stuff and shit, what did you think of my experiences I told you about?
Well, orbs can be many different things, so it's always really, really difficult, right? So
Of course,
I get a lot of questions of, like, people will describe a type of craft to me and expect me to be able to tell them exactly what it is.
of
It's
course.
it's it's just not
Art,
possible, especially if you get into orbs, because orbs and grays, I think, are the most common used images out there when it comes to dealing with extraterrestrials. So I mean, it sounds like any other kind of anomalous experience. One of those things that clearly you've seen it with a witness, someone who you've identified as being not necessarily open-minded even, or open to these topics previously. So to me, I used to interview people on these experiences all the time. So I've heard a million and two different versions. But when you start to hear things like, so I was with Tom, and Tom had never even considered extraterrestrials before. Tom saw it too. Tom thought, "What the fuck?" That's the kind of experiences that make my ears perk up, so to speak, because it's different when you've got someone who has been researching ufology their whole life and then suddenly sees a UFO. Those are the ones that I would question first.
exactly. I'm more interested in stuff like that. What I told you, why aren't always the hippies that come with the stories? Why not the average Joe, who doesn't know shit about space or whatever?
Yeah.
It's always people who already knew stuff about this. So, yeah, it's weird, man. Oh, I had this other thing, dreams, because when I used to be I used to do a lot with alternative community. I would think a lot about ETs, and I would dream a lot about them as well. So at the time, I would think like the experience I had in my dreams were real, blah blah blah. What Tanat talks about, Silver Legion, spirit realms, blah blah. But then I stopped, thinking about these kinds of things, and the dreams stopped as well. So then I saw a correlation between what I was thinking and what I was dreaming. And that's basically what they tell you, what they learn you at school, right? That that what you dream is a projection of your thought processes. So I was wondering what you think of that. Do you think astral projection and stuff like that is real, or do you think it's just something in your brain or whatever?
Well, it's obviously all in your brain. So, but at the same time, yes, I do believe that it's real. I do believe that it is something that we are capable of. I think that our understanding of it is a little skewed, and the various people writing about the subject have kind of muddied the water, so to speak, and people have different ideas about it. But overall, yes, I do believe that it's real. I don't think that some people have different views on it. Like what you were explaining there, those sound like dreams to me. That doesn't sound like your astral projection because, as you pointed out, it's not something you're doing consciously. And when you stopped focusing on those topics, the dreams went away.
Yeah.
Right? So that can be kind of like a test and controls type situation for you where, you experienced it, you considered it, you looked at it, and your conclusion was, or could be, yeah, I was just dreaming based on my subconscious playing all of this information back to me in a stylized way.
Could be very useful as well, because it can tell the dreams can tell you something about where you're at, kind of like so. But it isn't. Yeah, it isn't what they're teaching you. Like, yeah, you're traveling with your soul. It's so what you're basically saying. You have like two things that can happen, like astral projection and the dreams.
Yeah, I believe that they're different things. There are cases where people are astral projecting and only believing that they're dreams because they don't know any better. And then there's the other way where people are dreaming and believing that it's astral projection because that's what they want to believe. So I don't think that there's any solid rule to that. That I think it goes both ways sometimes.
It's for sure an interesting topic. I don't think we know enough about it yet.
Well, I think that it's actually kind of one of those topics that we've kind of lost over centuries, because if you start looking into some more Eastern traditions, it's very commonplace, right? Like if you start going to someone to teach you meditation, they will often branch into astral projection as well as being a facet of meditation.
Yeah, and when I was watching Ancient Aliens, there were these episodes on the pyramids, and you had these how do you say in English, hieroglyphs or hieroglyphs? How do you pronounce that? Hieroglyphs? Yes, hieroglyphs. There were these pictures of when you die or when you sleep, your soul goes to Orion or something. When I saw that, it made me think of astral projection as well. So if it is that, then it means that they knew about it a long time ago.
Yep, exactly. That's it's not new information at all. It's not something that was created within the New Age movement or the alternative community at all.
Fuck the New Age. Fuck it.
It's all so much older than that. So I think that it is worth considering a little bit more than some of the New Age fluff that we also experience.
I hate it. What I hate even more are people who are acting as if they aren't the New Age, but they are. They clearly are. They're acting as if they're above the New Age, but they're still in it. It's fucked up.
It's unfortunate but true. I mean, everyone's growing and everyone's learning, and I think that even those people that are doing so will eventually snap out of it or realize that that's what they're doing. But it is like another one of those traps that people do tend to fall into, which is, they renounce religion, they renounce society, and then they get into the alternative community and they adopt that as their new religion and their new society. But they continue along the same type of thought process, which is a problem in the long run because you're not really. All you're doing is replacing. It's like replacing one addiction with another.
Fuck that, man. Have you been to Egypt before?
No.
Out of Canada?
Yes.
Where?
Been to the States a lot. Japan.
Whoa, awesome. I want to go as well.
Brazil. I've been to places, but never really to visit as well. So I don't really count them. But a couple different places in Russia, a couple different places in South Africa.
Dope as fuck. I really like traveling. But because I'm so young and I used to travel with my parents a lot, because I didn't really have a job or something, I always stayed within Europe. But last year I finally made some money and I went to China on my own. It was really awesome.
So what'd you think
What did I think?
of China?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Let me think. No, it was a culture shock. I was only familiar with European scenery, and all of the sudden you get off the plane, 20-hour flight. I don't know. I don't even know how long it took, but you in a strange language, strange people. Everything is strange, and only when you're back in your home country you begin to process what you actually experience. It was so crazy, man, and it was really, there wasn't a lot of planning. I saw this offer on the internet, like 1,200 euros to China, and I was like, let's do it. So that's really awesome.
Interesting. Where were you in China?
I went to Beijing, and
Nice.
this mountain area outside of Beijing as well.
How did your experience kind of compare to what you perceived China to be like before arriving?
It wasn't really the country that surprised me, because what I found was if you're new with stuff, it lands pretty fast. You know what I mean? After a day or two, you're used to everything you see. I guess I thought it would be very dangerous there, but it wasn't. It was actually the opposite, because there were a lot of soldiers and stuff. You could just walk outside in the middle of the night and nothing would happen. I would even say that the cities in my home country are more dangerous. So I felt pretty safe. I thought that was pretty surprising. But I went on my own. It was not no one I knew, and I got in situations I never would have got in. So I got to know myself in a different way. So I found out some things about myself that I would have never thought I could do, or I actually was, or you know what I mean. So that was really great.
Awesome.
Yeah.
It's proving something to yourself or showing yourself that you're capable of something beyond what you believed is always an amazing experience.
It wasn't even that. I wasn't even trying. It was just I. It was like you. I think of it like this. You have like your body. It has different pieces, and some pieces you use the whole time, and all these other pieces are just waiting for you, are just waiting to pop up at the appropriate time. And for some people, don't never will never use those pieces, but some people will sometimes, and then all of a sudden this piece will pop up you would have never thought was there. So that definitely happened with me, and I'm going this spring I'm going to the US, so I'm doing it all again.
What part of the U.S. are you going to?
I will start out in San Francisco, and I will go from there to Los Angeles. We'll stop in Las Vegas, San Diego, and all these nature parks.
Nice.
Yep.
That kind of what you're going for is just to see the country.
Sightseeing.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And also a lot of movies they show us here are, come from those areas, were filmed in those areas. So I'm really looking forward to seeing all that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought about making the trip my way up to Canada?
Yeah, I did. But for some reason I just took this trip. I thought I didn't think about it a lot. I just let my intuition flow, and I felt like, oh, let's do this. Okay, it's all right, and maybe next time I will do Canada or Japan or whatever. Oh, I know what I wanted to talk about. Japan, anime. Do you watch that?
Anime?
Yeah,
Not really. No.
there are some series you should watch, man.
I definitely checked out Attack of the Titans.
Yeah, did you remember? I told you to watch that.
Yep.
You
Definitely
knew I
check
was
that out.
you knew I was that.
Yep. After you suggested, I definitely checked it out. That movie, they made the live action movie out of I guess it's the second one, but that was pretty intense.
Yeah, it was really intense. You should watch Parasite.
Parasite, or is that what you
Par-
said?
yeah, Parasite the Maxim.
What's the basic idea behind that one?
Okay, so it's it's on Earth, on normal life. But you have these parasite-looking aliens that don't really think. They're just like parasites, and the only thing they do is they land on Earth. Um, they they go into a room where people sleep. Then they go in the skin of the human, go straight through to the brain, and when it's at the brain, it is grown too big, and it will take over like the body, and it will eat humans to survive. But there's this one parasite that goes into this human, but the humans wake up. So he's trying to get the parasite out, and the parasite is trying to go from the arm of the human to the head, but the human ties his arm with a rope or something, so the parasite can't go any further. And before the parasite knows it, it has grown too big to to travel any further in the body, so it will stay in the arm. So basically, the arm morphs instead of the head. So now you have like the human still intact and the alien in the arms. It's really interesting. They touch on a lot of philosophical ideas as well.
Cool.
It's really you should write it down, man. It's really awesome. Parasite the Maxim.
Definitely will. Anything else in that genre that you think people should take a look at?
Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. Really awesome. It's basically it's about alchemy. Um, so you have to. Yeah, it's a world where you have alchemy, so you can learn certain spells and you can write certain things down on the ground, and it will have an influence on reality. So if you use certain marks and certain ingredients, certain stuff will happen. And the mother of those two boys dies, so they're trying to revive her, but because they're still young and they don't have much experience, it goes wrong, and the soul from one of the brothers, leaves the body, and I think an arm and a leg of the other boy leaves as well, vanishes. So the brother left is trying to revive the brother now, and he manages to get his soul into this metal armor, and his arms and legs are replaced with metal as well. And the series basically is about them trying to get the body from the one brother back, and the arm and leg from
Interesting.
the other brother. It's really interesting. You should look it out. Look out for a better description than mine.
Sounds like a bit of a transhumanist story in a
Yeah,
way. Yeah.
kinda. It isn't really. It is kinda about transhumanism, but more. Um, yeah, it's very interesting. I'm not entirely sure where about the esoteric meanings and stuff, because I'm not really good at stuff like that. And when I watched it, I wasn't really into that kind of stuff.
Made me think of another video game, actually. It's a video game that was called Too Human, which is an interesting title considering. But the idea is what they did is they took Norse mythology, so all of Odin and Thor and all those characters, and they kind of changed it in that they're not necessarily gods. They're just cybernetically enhanced beings, like humans essentially,
Yeah.
who are bloodline related to Odin and his flock, um, who have these implants that make them god-like. And I thought that was a kind of interesting twist on it all. The rest of the story is all there with Midgard and the Aesir protecting the rest of humanity. But again, the Aesir are, in this case, not gods. They are just humans who have these implants who make them god-like. So kind of an interesting twist in a lot of our predictive programming that is kind of talking about this idea of moving the consciousness of a being into something artificial in order to have experiences.
Yeah. About Mass Effect, I saw that you have one ending where you can merge the machines with the organic life.
Yep.
Imagine if that would happen. But when I saw that ending, I felt kind of repulsed, as if that's not meant to happen or something.
Yeah, it kind of goes against our nature, right? Like it goes against what's in our heart, I think, and I think that's why so many people are repulsed by it.
Did you watch Ex Machina?
The film, yes, definitely. Another
Crazy.
very
Yeah.
interesting look at the potentials of creating AI and putting AI into something that's supposed to be a companion. Another good one in that regard is the movie Her. With,
Oh yeah, it's a great movie. I really like that movie.
yeah, it is very good. Another very good look at it because it looks at the relationship side of it, like what it could be like to develop a relationship with something that's not wired the same way as you are, quite literally.
Yeah, and the robot had a sexy voice.
Yep, of course.
I thought it was really cool that at some point, I think around the end of the movie, no spoilers, but Alan Watts came.
Yep.
It was really awesome. So, are there any movies you would recommend? Because you already pointed out a never-ending story. Are there any other movies?
Oh, lots, I suppose. I definitely think another one that's a kind of kiddish movie, and also David Bowie is in it, is Labyrinth. There's a deep kind of esoteric story in that as well. Funny if you get into a lot of those films are made by the same type of directors, so that's kind of an interesting study in and of itself to look at the filmography of different directors and realize how often they repeat the same types of films. Obviously, The Wizard of Oz is kind of a staple when it comes to understanding how various programming can work. When you were talking about astral projection, there's a film that kind of, most people don't pick it up when they watch it, but there's a film called Sucker Punch that it's a action movie that's really a lot of CGI and really pretty, and of course there's the stars of the movies are all these attractive female leads, right? And anyways, the whole film is essentially showing how these girls are using the astral realms in order to affect their physical reality. They believe that they're in this futuristic setting fighting these, I'm making this up just to not spoil the movie, but they're in this futuristic setting fighting these robots in order to get to this mirror. And the reason that they're doing that is because in their waking three-dimensional life, the real world, so to speak, they need that mirror. And the process of going into this alternate reality, fighting off these robots to acquire the mirror, actually presented an opportunity in their real world to get to that mirror. So it is an interesting thing, especially if you're thinking about astral projection. It kind of gives an example. I think where people get mistaken is they think that you can kind of go into the astral realm and 100% change your reality. Where I think more what people are doing is kind of putting out intentions, the same way we are doing it when we're awake through prayer or through meditation or just our basic thoughts and feelings and how we're interacting with our world. I see it as all the same thing, just a more potent extension of that, where what you're doing is kind of setting your intention for what you would like to see happen in the world. And so that's an interesting movie that touches on those subjects. It's made by Zack Snyder, who's doing the Batman versus Superman movie and just did Man of Steel.
Very interesting movie as well, by the way.
Definitely, his filmography is definitely worth taking a look at, because he also did Watchmen, which is another movie I would recommend for the same reasons. A lot of interesting concepts in that one. It's I think it's based on a comic book, I believe, or a graphic novel. There's again some very interesting topics in there as well.
Definitely look it up. I saved it in this app I have.
Good.
Yep.
And generally, like if you find one movie, like as an example, The Matrix is one that we all kind of identify with.
Favorite movie.
If you take that and then you look at everything else that those directors do, you'll realize that all of their movies are telling the same type of a story. I mean, they did Jupiter Ascending, which is pretty popular, but Cloud Atlas. If you can follow Cloud Atlas, that is one hell of a story. So.
Cloud Atlas was awesome, but about Jupiter Ascending, there was one thing that really bugged me: the male actor with pointy ears.
Oh God, he was terrible. The acting in that movie was.
He played in a movie where he was a gay stripper. I mean, come on, man, why him?
Well, the lead actors in that film were just decidedly bad. Like
Oh,
it was
fuck.
terrible. Like
It's horrible.
the whole little love story between the two of them. It was just awful. I found what's his name in the film? Bellum. Abraxas, that actor is incredible. He actually just did a movie, I believe it's called The Dutch Girl, where I think he plays a transgender, or at least he's acting to be female. I haven't actually watched the movie. I've only seen a bunch of extended trailers for it, and you can just see like his level of acting is incredible. So it was kind of funny. I always find that like with a lot of the movies that have a lot of the more heavy concepts in them, especially when it comes to TV, you get these really bad productions and terrible acting, and they get canceled after a couple seasons because of that. But while they were active, they told a pretty interesting story, like the V series or the modern V series. I shouldn't say the modern V series. The remake of the V series, the most
With the
recent
reptilians,
one.
right?
Yeah. It's like some of the acting in that is just absolutely horrible. The production and a lot of the CGI and stuff is very, very lame. But
If you look at the story, as well.
exactly. And I do think that they kind of do this on purpose. One of my favorite researchers, Michael Tsarian, has pointed this out with some of the films that he's identified the most with. They're just terrible movies, but they have a very rich story.
Same as Mass Effect.
Yes.
Huh.
I guess Mass Effect's a bit dated now, right? So
Yeah, but I saw the the trailer of the second game. It looked a lot better. It looked actually pretty good.
yeah.
Interesting. There was this other thing, astrology. What do you
Oh
think
my.
about it?
I actually plan on talking about that in the next podcast I do on my own, but I'm not a believer, so to speak, in astrology. I think Carl Sagan's line about the physician attending the birth has a greater gravitational effect on you than a planet does. But I think that what we're dealing with are more psychological archetypes than they are physical effect.
Do you know what it fully entails, or are you only familiar with the horoscopes you see in the papers?
I know what it fully entails from a bunch of different perspectives. I'm kind of an occult perspective, as well as a kind of well-researched mainstream perspective, if you want to put it that way. And of course, the part we all know of the stupid horoscopes in your paper, but
Because
it's just an opinion. Like I know a lot of people who I highly respect who wholeheartedly believe in it, and
for me, it is not about believing anymore, because I forgot to talk about that part of who I am, because when I was younger, I struggled a lot with life for various reasons, and when I was searching on the web, I found, per coincidence, call it a coincidence, an astrologer. And in my country, we have really good astrologers. I don't know why it is, but it's so a lot of famous books come from my country. So, she basically helped me. She knows everything about it, the little details, and she basically told me everything about my chart, and it really helped me. And it just is. It works, It's just right. So maybe you could look into it a little bit more, or maybe you could let someone look at your chart, because it's really interesting, man.
well, I definitely I actually have had a lot of people who have read the blog email me and ask for that information that they require in order to do my chart and send it back to me. And that's another kind of what leads me to believe what I do about it is all of those are different. I've given them all the same information. They've sent me 9, 10, 12 different versions of that information. That said, I have bumped into some people who have kind of made predictions based on the chart that they did for me that have come to pass. Like I had met with a woman that I believe we had met through one of the forums, but she had done my chart, and it was one of the more accurate readings, so to speak. And she also predicted that I was going through something at the time, and she predicted to the day when I would start to feel better. So that was impressive. So obviously, it's there's different ways of looking at that. Even like, could that have been, if she had never told me that, would it still have been that day?
I will explain something to you. Okay,
Feel free.
so you have the planets, right? And they are not literally the planets, they are just symbols for archetypes. So you have the sun, there's the ego, the moon, there's the subconscious, blah, 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 blah.
Understood. Yeah.
Okay, so you have this whole system, and it depends on you which part of your system you use. So you can use astrology only for reading your chart, but you can't read from the chart which part you're using it. In order to to determine which part you're using, you would actually have to talk with someone and to feel someone out. So it goes much deeper than only a reading, on the internet. So it's really it goes really deep and far. So that's why a lot of people fail to do a very deep or good analysis on your chart, because it goes a lot deeper than most people think. And I would actually say that most astrologers are shit or didn't completed their teachings. My teacher told me, like, it's a never-ending study. We learn more and more, and there's more to learn. It doesn't stop. Most astrologers think they know everything, but they fail to realize how deep things go. So you have like your zodiac sign. Well, I can tell you, it says shit. It's nothing. It's nothing. It's a little part of a whole thing.
That makes sense. Yeah.
So for you to receive a good reading, you would need to find a really good astrologist. And I dare to say that the people who look at your chart are still learning. I think.
Well, we could make a fun little game out of this, actually, if you're interested. If you know someone that
Yes.
you would trust to do my chart, I would gladly give them my information and have as many conversations as I need to with that person. We could do this. I could do it as a podcast where I actually, express to everybody what this person came up with, and everyone can kind of make up for their own mind how accurate it was.
Yes. I know about their horoscope as well. Do you know about the houses and stuff?
A little bit, but not much. So you go
Okay,
ahead.
so you have certain houses, and her planets are in houses that deal with privacy. So I'm doubting whether she would be able to um, go on a podcast. But what I could do at least is give her your information, let her make a analysis, translate it in English, and we could come back and discuss it.
Yeah, that'd be great.
We could do that at least.
Let's definitely do that. We'll follow up on that when we get off the air. Is there anything else about astrology you kind of would like to share with me? Just because it is something that I learn about, but I like to learn about it, any subject, from as many people, as many different points of view as I can. So yours is valuable to me.
It goes really, really, really deep. You can even see in a horoscope how you grew up. But you have to use very elaborate systems, and you have to consider a lot of other things, because your country has a horoscope that affects your own horoscope. Your household has a horoscope that affects you. You have, I would say, hundreds of things that influence it, and it just depends on that day or that moment what's gonna happen. So it goes really deep. Some things you just can't even pin down. Some general things you can, and maybe some deeper things you can too, but it goes really fucking deep.
Interesting. I have a very close friend who he does psychological profiling for a living. Like, he's fairly well respected in my country, anyways. Can't name him, but
Yeah, of course.
he's fairly well respected in that field, and he does use astrology as part of his process.
Yeah, because it can be very accurate. But it's a very elaborate study, and there are still some debates on several topics within astrology, and all this talk about, because you have an uneven number of planets within astrology, so this indicates at some point we will discover a new planet, and this will release a new kind of energy archetype, whatever. So it isn't finished yet. It isn't what I said. There's still much to learn about.
Well, it's very interesting what you just said, especially I talk to a lot of intuitive people who have been expressing a very dramatic change in their inner being as of late, and it actually does coincide quite well with our discovery of that other planet out there, right? Or the potential discovery, I should correct myself.
Yes, I have a certain contact. I won't name him. He's very bold in his statements and very convinced about what he's saying. And he says he has some contacts with an ET group only he knows about. And from them, he heard that that planet wasn't a planet, but it was just a miscalculation, and it was actually, I don't know exactly how it works, but they miscalculated it, and it's actually something they detected, actually something from somewhere else or something. Yeah, I don't know what to think about it. Just wanted to say that.
That's an interesting idea.
He's very bold. I found him on his forum, and he was saying a lot of stuff I liked, but then I began talking to him, and the way he talked, very convinced of himself, kind of, I am the only one, good one, energy he had. So yeah, I'm not sure, but he had a lot of elaborate info on ETs, more than a lot of other people have. I have another subject. A lot of people talk about Pleiadians, the Andromedans, but those are fucking star clusters, man.
Yeah.
What the fuck, man? Those are star clusters. How can you? The Pleiadians? I think we are Pleiadians as well, or Orions, or whatever. That's crazy, man. When I found that out, that's when I began to question the alternative media big time, because I didn't even know. And what he does, he has specific names for beings, groups, specific planets, specific. Everything's very detailed, specific. So he either has a really big imagination, or he's right on.
Yeah, I hear you there. I've wrote a blog on that subject because the same thing kind of makes me giggle a little bit when say Andromedans. That's incredibly ambiguous.
What the fuck, bro? Andromeda's fucking big.
That'd be like saying a Milky Way, and that it doesn't. We're talking about a star cluster. We're not talking about a planet. So I think that at the same time, I mean, if you were visiting another country and you're meeting, say, you're in China and you're introducing yourself to someone from China, how far into describing your home do you go, right? Do you say, oh yeah, I live in Holland in this town called blah, in a subdivision within it that's kind of a project, or like I don't know you. I don't know these situations, for these are not real.
But then you're talking about within a world. These are separate worlds.
Yes.
That's something else. If I would be traveling the galaxy and I would find a being I wouldn't know, I would want to know where the fuck they're from, because you know what I mean. That's good to know.
Yes, I agree. Knowing where someone is from, especially if you know the place, can definitely help you identify a little bit about them as a being. But if you don't know the place, then it's not going to help you much anyways. So maybe that's where someone just says, "Hey, I'm from planet Earth."
What do you think about blonde alien? Because I've seen you talking about it, and you've met them, right?
Yep. Sorry, you were breaking up a bit there, but I think we're okay. Yes, I said that in a podcast recently. Actually, the same type of thing where people use that as a blanket, but from my own experience, I know lots of groups that are fit that description. Tall, blonde.
Did you physically see them?
Sorry, I think your connection might be breaking up a little bit there. Can you repeat that?
Oh, did you physically see them?
Did I physically see them? Yes, I did.
Yeah. Like you could then touch them.
Yep. Like a three-dimensional, just like meeting any other person on the street type meeting, yes.
And did they have any role in in us being here? Like genetically?
Sorry, man, we're breaking up here. Just 1 second. I'm going to pause for a second and just stop this recording, and then we're going to pick back up with you asking me that question again, okay?
Alright.
You have some very interesting theories. You believe there is a mystical undertow in life? Quicksands, shadows.
Why? Is that bad?
Does it feel bad?
No.
Alright. So, the blondes.
Yes, and for anyone listening, there may have been an abrupt end there and a little musical interlude, but we're back now. Before that, he had asked me about meeting blondes. And so, yes, it was a physical meeting, face-to-face, just like meeting any other person. And I hear a lot of kind of stories about, orb meetings and various things like that, and I've never had that type of experience. Any of my contact experiences have been very face-to-face, and it is just like meeting any other person on the street, or going to a bar and meeting up with someone, or a coffee shop and meeting up with someone. It's that type of an experience. It's not a out-of-body experience or an astral projected experience.
But did you knew it would happen, or did it happen out of nothing?
Well, it's happened multiple times, so I guess the first time that it had ever happened was actually kind of a strange experience, because I couldn't sleep all night, and I was pretty young. I had just kind of gone out in my backyard, and I kept seeing like this flashing light towards a park area. Like there was a park kind of a couple blocks away from my house, and in that area I kept seeing this like bright flash, and it was strange because it was lighting up the sky almost like lightning was. And I had decided, my parents were asleep, I could do whatever without getting caught, I thought anyways. I would go towards that park and see what I saw. And it was when I arrived there that the sky kind of went this red color, and a craft essentially came down and landed in the park, and out of it stepped some what we would describe as tall blonde ETs, and conversation ensued, and that's how it was. It wasn't like part of a dream or anything like that. It was just very much obviously a very strange experience, but a very real experience.
Can it have something to do with the government, because they look human? Could it be that they're actually Earth humans fooling you somehow? Being part of a program or something, I don't know.
It's absolutely a possibility. My own kind of conclusions after, years of different questioning is that I don't believe that it was, but I explained this earlier, I always keep my mind open to the fact that it could.
How do they smell?
Could have been. It was very strange actually, because if you've ever been to a hospital, that kind of a sterile smell.
Yes.
It was very similar to that, and that's always been, when I do question myself, that's always been one of those things, because I know with, the my lab experiences, that's also reported.
What about their breath?
Their breath was, again, there was almost like the same type of thing, where it was, how some people, when they have very good oral hygiene, it almost smells like they've been drinking alcohol?
Uh-huh.
Like that type of a smell. So, again, that's strange. Why wouldn't it, Or maybe it's not strange, but it's something that you have to question.
Did you touch them?
Yep.
How did it feel?
Normal.
Human.
Yep.
No,
very well. Like they were all in, it's seemingly very good shape compared to the average human.
They were
You know what I
like
mean?
Baywatch.
Sort of, yeah. Very like very sinewy, very like well-defined, muscular, but still like lean, right? Like not. You never notice like any extra fat on their bodies. It's very chiseled.
What if Arnold Schwarzenegger was an alien?
I wouldn't be surprised.
He talks a bit weird as well. So.
I've heard people say that even with his accent and I think it's Austrian that he is. Even being Austrian, he still talks very strange.
Do, do, do. Weird, man. It's so weird. I never met any ETs. I only saw the objects. I mean, you don't seem like someone who's lying or something. So I think at least you believe it. But I'm not. Yeah, it's hard for me, you know.
Well, I think it's going to be hard. It should be hard for anyone, unless they've had the experience,
True.
right? Like
Yes.
I don't see why anyone would, like take something that anyone is reporting at surface value just because they're saying it. You do kind of what you just did, where you're like, you don't sound like you're making it up, so at least you believe it. So therefore, at least it's a possibility in your mind. It's not something you believe. You're not going to leave this and be like, oh, I'm fully convinced he's met blonde ETs and he's now my hero, right?
Yeah, sure.
That's the danger. That's
Yeah.
that's the type of thing you need to avoid.
You have a
If you
very
could-
healthy look upon it, and I think.
if you look at that and you hear the person explain that story and you do listen to it, it sounds like a true story to you, then file it away as a possibility. And eventually you're going to have another experience in your life or hear another story that's going to make you feel differently about that, probably, and then so you look at it again. I don't even though I've had very specific and well-defined experiences in my life, in many cases, I don't look at it that way. Here's an example I always like to use. Do you remember the birthday cake you had on your 10th birthday?
No.
You remember, did you have a birthday cake on your 10th birthday?
No.
You had a 10th birthday?
No. No. I'm actually. I skipped that age. I know. But let's say I did.
Right? So let's from there,
Yeah.
what kind of cake did you have? You may not remember.
Chocolate.
Chocolate. So you tell people chocolate,
Yeah.
right? Maybe a few years down the road, one of your relatives will pull out a photo album and it'll be a picture of your 10th birthday, and you'll realize that it was a giant strawberry cake that was in the shape of a car, and you
yeah.
didn't remember all of that, but there's a picture right in front of you that's showing you that that's what happened. Does that change your perception of what happened? Does that change your memory of what happened? Of course it does. You've just taken in new data. And so therefore, if you were 100% sold on that chocolate cake that you remembered, how are you going to react when you now see that strawberry cake in the picture? Is it going to be a healthy reaction, or is it going to be a negative reaction? I know I'm using a very trivial example, but it's just it's an example everyone can relate to, because most of us have birthdays. So
I don't.
Are you being honest in that? Like, you don't?
yeah, I do. It's a joke.
Okay. I'm one of those strange people who don't have
I
birthdays.
never have birthdays. But how it's called in English when you're born on this certain on the end of February, you know what I mean? And
Leap year.
yeah, that would be that would be fucked up. And it would be like 6 now or something.
Yeah, there's a play that I did when I was young that I've always loved. It's called The Pirates of Penzance, and the main kind of plot behind that is this young boy is indentured to pirates until his 21st birthday, right? So that means that he's a slave essentially to the pirates until he turns 21.
Yeah.
And so his 21st birthday comes along and they release him. But then a couple months later they go back to him and they're like, dude, we kind of fucked up. You're not actually 21. You're actually only 5
Oops,
because
shit.
you were born on a leap year.
Yeah, and then he has to go back.
Yeah, and it's a musical, so it's all done in a very funny and fun song. But yeah, it's pretty funny. You're just a little boy of 5.
Awesome, man. So There are a few books I would like to recommend.
Sure, go for it.
The Power of Now from Eckhart Tolle. Are you familiar with it?
I am, yep.
Did you read it?
I think it was a long time ago when I read it. I picked it up again semi-recently. I think I got about halfway through before I put it down and forgot. But
It basically talks about being in a now and how, experiencing pain means that you're identifying with your brain and the pain body. The pain body is, I was looking at your YouTube channel and I saw you were subscribed to Teal Swan.
yep,
She talks about it as well. I'm not sure if she calls it the same. Eckhart Tolle calls it the pain body, and she talks about shadow aspects. I think that's really fucking interesting, man. There are things from our youth that we put away, but it's still there, and it pops up at certain, moments in our lives, or if there's are certain triggers. For instance, if your mother scolded at you when you were younger. Now, every time a female authority figure will scold at you, you will react the same as you did when you was younger. That's an example of your shadow aspect or the pain body. And that book, what I'm talking about, The Power of Now, is talking about how to release that. And Teal Swan as well is talking about it as well. Basically, it's very interesting.
yeah, it's a very important way of looking at your own psyche. Like regression therapy is the same type of idea. One that I personally really enjoy is Dianetics, which a lot of people shy away from if they're not fans of Scientology because it's tied into Scientology. But Dianetics as a practice, I think, is brilliant because it's exactly the same type of idea. Going back into
Scientology
those,
has some good things.
Yep, and going back into those past traumas and healing them and identifying them and realizing, how I'm reacting to things today is generally tied to a reaction I have had in my past, and I think where some of them get some kind of weird for some people is once you kind of get through your physical life, like the lifetime that you're identifying as now, a lot of them also talk about going back into past life memories and trying to heal traumas from previous lives.
I'm not
assuming-
sure how I feel about that.
Fair enough. I mean, to each their own in that regard. I personally do believe in incarnation.
I do absolutely believe in reincarnation, but I'm not sure if we can go back to that and try to solve that. I think we should keep it at this life. You have also this practice, the inner child work. I think that that goes far enough.
I agree with that. Definitely definitely making it the priority. Like the first thing you need to do, and because I've had some people through emails and stuff say things like this to me, is they kind of skip over this life and they want to go right back into their past lives, and that's because it's kind of sexy and exciting and they want to remember these things, which is totally understandable and can't blame you. And yeah, we all want to too. But at the same time, the best thing to do is focus on this life and make sure that you're healing these things and not just
Right.
observing them and skipping back so that you can get further, so that I want to get to that past life because that's where, that's the stuff I don't remember.
Okay, let's remember what we're talking about now, okay? Because I don't want to forget it. But there's something I just thought about. What's very interesting. So when I was younger, really young, I used to be incredibly afraid of water. When my parents put me on swim lessons, I just didn't want to do it, and they had to get me off. When I went to primary school, we had history lessons, and you had these books about the medieval ages. And you saw all these pictures about torture as well. Every child is going to be scared of that, but I reacted to that very differently compared to the others. I was extremely scared of that. Now looking back on it, I think those two things, the water thing and the torture thing, might have been things from a past life. Could be, right?
Very well could be, yeah.
I think so, because it's really strange. I can swim now, and I do watch. I watched Braveheart the other day. Big torture scenes, so I don't have those problems anymore. But I think when you're a child, it, you know, you have. I feel like you're still sensitive to things like that, if you're not completely in this life yet. You know what I mean? you're maybe have in the other life or something. I don't know how it works exactly, but I feel like it. I literally feel like it works like that. When we're younger, we're receptible to what happened before. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
still.
and I didn't read this somewhere. I'm not sure if I'm talking bullshit, but I feel like that it works like that.
I know that both of my kids, one of the first full thoughts that they came to independently on their own was something similar to, it's okay, once you get old and die, you just come back as a baby again, which I
Yeah.
think is pretty interesting.
Do you
But
have kids?
yeah, it's definitely true that a lot of children do report, past life memory, and they
Yeah.
do, come up with things that they haven't been experienced to in this world as being part of their reality. And different people look at that different ways. Some people think it's just, part of genetic memory and something that's in the collective consciousness, or what have you. But some people do also believe that what they're remembering is the life that they had previous to this one, and it's just close enough to them, and you're not quite as conditioned when you're that young, right? So.
I had to go to the psychologist for reasons I will not discuss on air. We can talk about it maybe another time off air. But in the reports, I apparently told the psychiatrist that I was very proud to be on Earth when I was young. I literally said it like that. I said to her, "I'm proud to be here" or something, or to survive. I thought it was really strange, and I talked with this man by my bed as well. So it's really really odd things.
It was like the imaginary friend, right?
Yeah,
Like,
quote
well,
unquote
that
imaginary. Yeah.
quote unquote imaginary friend. Yes, exactly. And even like my own kind of deeper experiences, things like psychic ability and telekinesis and stuff like that. A lot of the times where people do witness it as in children, it's not as common in adults, and I think that has a lot to do with the kind of conditioning and
Yeah, but maybe it's just how our biology works.
could
Maybe
be as
when
well.
maybe when we because it's like when we're younger we can still swim for a short while after getting out of the womb, and our skulls are softer as well, right? So
Yep.
maybe it works like that with our. Yeah, I don't know what protects us from all those things. Maybe our field or something is weaker as well. I don't know. I don't know. I'm just speculating here, but could be.
It could be any of the above, right? Like
Yeah.
that's. I think that a lot of people believe that people say like within the Illuminati have dead set answers on questions like this. They really don't. They
They're
they're
just
asking all
people.
the same questions. They're just people, and they've got different information than you have. They may have more information on certain topics. They may have less information on
And they're
certain
maybe
topics.
even more deceived than we are. Some of them.
Exactly. And they can be a lot more close-minded than a lot of people I meet who are not in those orders. So,
And I'm not believing in them, but also not. I'm also not. I'm open for it. So I'm just talking with you. I'm just imagining if they would be real,
yep,
how that would go.
very healthy.
Yeah.
Like
Because I don't want to give the impression I firmly believe. I mean, I think this is another thing, man. People in the alternative media think that the things they talk about aren't known amongst the sheeple. But we were talking about Joe Rogan, right? He actually talks a lot, or has talked a lot about the reptilians and all those weird theories. He even had Alex Jones on his show.
yep.
So I don't think people should have the illusion that the sheeple don't know about this shit. They do, but they just think it's crazy.
He claims Alex Jones is a friend for sure.
Yeah.
And like there's different points of view on all of that. Like I'll bring up an example. He was a big proponent that we never went to the moon. That the moon landing was a hoax.
Yeah.
For a very very long time.
Oh, he looked like a fool when Neil deGrasse Tyson was on his show, and he actually asked him what he thought about that. And
Well, if you watch the sequence of events, what had happened was he got his own TV show right after that, right?
Yeah.
Some people could identify with that and say, okay, well, what happened was he got bought out, and that's why he changed his mind, right?
Yeah.
So there's different ways of looking at that as well, and I think that the only danger comes in wholeheartedly believing on either side that you're 100% correct and the other side is full of shit or completely stupid. Like it's when it divides you from the other side that it becomes a problem. Like, you know, like bring up any kind of conspiracy theory, and there's no danger in questioning the theory. There's no danger in playing with the concepts or having a dialogue with someone else about the concepts. The only danger comes in is if you believe your side of it so much that you look at that whoever you're conversing with as being a sheeple.
That's
Or being,
horrible.
you know,
I hate that.
That's I do too, and
I've
like
done it. I've done it. Admit.
I'm on that side of the fence that believes all the far out things, right?
Yeah.
I am on that side, but I do not look at the other side of the fence as being sheeple or being ignorant or being. I shouldn't have used the word ignorant there, but I don't look at them in a negative way. They are just like me.
Yeah, they're the same, and sometimes they even know more than us. But I was wondering, what do you think about Duncan Trussell?
I enjoy listening to him. He definitely the same type of thing. He kind of goes a little bit further out into conspiracy land than a lot do.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he's got his own belief system, and that comes through.
Yeah.
And it's not mine. So
No.
I'm not going to fully agree with everything he says, but I definitely enjoy listening to him. First of all, I find him very entertaining. I love
too.
his childlike enthusiasm
Yeah.
about things, and
Especially his high-pitched voice.
yeah, like when he gets all excited, I love that. Like I enjoy it. Like I enjoy that kind of enthusiasm. So
He's awesome.
yeah,
But back to the shadow work. What would be a good way to work on this? Because I've tried the meditation stuff and visualization, but it's very hard for me to focus.
well, a lot of what I do personally is kind of I identify in the moment kind of my triggers. Like if if I'm in a conversation with somebody and something sets me off, I'll kind of make a note of that.
Yeah, I do that too. I really.
And then when I get away from that conversation, I'll go back and I'll look at that. Sometimes what I'll do, and this is actually why I write the style of music I write, is I'll put myself right into that dark position. Like I'll use my imagination to create the darkest, like the worst case scenario.
Those you are getting those emotions up. You bring them up, right?
Exactly. It's like kind of like living through the experience in a vicarious setting.
Music can be a trigger as well.
Absolutely. Music can have many different properties, and some of them are good and some of them are bad. And that's, again, the only danger in identifying those things is I'm never going to listen to music again because there's a potential for it to have a negative effect on me, right? Like, but what about all the potentials for positive effects you're throwing out? It's that baby with the bathwater again.
And a negative effect could also be positive.
Yeah, it's
Paradox.
true. It's true.
I've used several drugs, and they can bring you down very badly. But when you look, it can be positive as well. Depends on how you use it.
It's true. And it's all about awareness. Like as an example with the drug topic, a lot of spiritualists will identify that when you take a lot of these drugs, they're opening portals within your chakra system that allow other entities or other demons, negative influences to work through you. Okay, that's a possibility. Keep that in mind, become aware of it, and then if that is true, right? Like if that is real, you're going to know when you have the experience. And if it's real for you, then you're going to avoid the experience in the future. But what if it's not? And you just took someone's word and heard that it was dangerous and you should never do it. You've never experienced it, right? You've just denied yourself a potential to learn.
True. That's what's going on with the weed situation. And you say Joe Rogan actually talked about when he was younger, he thought that if you would smoke weed, you would explode, your brain would explode or something. All this propaganda.
Yep.
And now we're using it in a medical way.
I can remember like even my own perceptions of that. Like I was told as a child that even doing a drug once means you're
It'll kill
addicted to it and it will kill you, right? Like that was always it. So I remember like the first time I was ever exposed to someone doing drugs around me, I was in a full blown panic, thinking one of them's going to drop dead.
Oh,
You
my,
know?
oh my God.
So it actually created this traumatic experience for me because I was with friends and I wasn't doing the drugs at the times, but they were experimenting with them, and I was traumatized and terrorized by the fact that my family had told me that if they do that, they could potentially die.
But they love you.
Yeah.
Shit, bro. Do you want to hear this really crazy story about propaganda? So also on Joe Rogan, I heard this story. The co-founder of Vice was there, and they were in Korea or Siberia rather, and there was this prison camp with prisoners from Korea, and Kim Jong whatever his name is, sent them to them, but they thought they were actually still in Korea. So he told them they were going to they would be moved within Korea, but they were actually in a whole different country. It's crazy. Korea is really crazy. They do really fucked up the stuff.
And that kind of made it into the movie The Interview as well. They kind of played on the whole Vice experience of that interview, because that's all that stuff that was in. Yeah, what's his name? Shane something.
Yeah,
I obviously remember the Shane.
Yeah, of course you remember that. Yeah.
But yeah, he had said like they had gone over there and the Koreans had built like grocery store fronts, like you see in the movie The Interview, where it was a fake building with the front of it was made to look like a full grocery store. So if you looked at it from the street, it would look like a grocery store, like any other grocery store. But if you went in there, you'd realize that the few foods that you saw were fake and there was nothing behind it. It was all just a...
Korea, did you see that Korean movie that really, well, it's an art house movie, pretty famous still, about this dude being locked up in his room for 15 years. Did you see it?
I haven't seen it, no, but I've definitely seen previews for it.
You should watch it. It's also very mindfucking.
But that's the way it works, and then there's propaganda is pretty strong, and it's funny because that plays its way into the alternative media as well, because we take a lot of propaganda that works for us because we don't necessarily identify with the way that our country is running. Like a good example is the kind of back and forth between Russia and the United States. This idea that the BRICS nations are working for the betterment of humanity and things like that. Where there's some people, and I'm definitely on this side of the fence, who kind of identify with seeing the way that those countries actually do run from the inside, and separating that from the propaganda that's coming from both sides in my own country, and realizing that doesn't seem like much better of an option to me personally. But again, it could be propaganda that I'm falling for as well, right?
Yeah, a cage within a cage.
Exactly. Because I look at all of it, and I try to take everything in, and then kind of make my decisions, and all of my conclusions are always loose, as we've been talking about. But you'll hear positive news on one side, negative news on the other. Compare the two and eliminate the contradictions.
Yeah, you should always weigh things out.
But another thing I also do is I live in a country like Canada. We have a lot of immigration to this country. Like, it's a very diverse country where we have a lot of people from other countries. So I work with a lot of Russians, especially the industry I'm in. I work with a lot of people who have moved here from Russia, and it isn't like there isn't a mix in their opinions. It's all a very negative opinion of the country that they've come from. And when they hear our media reporting certain things that make their country seem good, they actually get upset. So I take that very seriously, right? It's like I've been in situations like, an example, I've witnessed a shooting that never got reported in the news. Like I've searched for it. I've looked it up. Like a group of friends of it was just we do have a little bit of gang activity in the city that I live in. It was just a gang shooting. It was just, someone owed someone money for something and he decided to shoot the other guy. And that was all it was. But
so no one you knew or something?
No.
Oh,
And it
but-
was like I was interviewed by police, like that was questioned by police because I was a first-hand witness, and as were a lot of other people that I stayed in contact with after the fact because we all noticed it never made it to the news, right? Like, and so if stuff like that can happen, then obviously, and we all know how heavily the news media is controlled, it's so easy to paint the wrong picture.
It's true.
So you can't just throw it all out. You have to listen to it, but you also have to listen to the other side, and then you have to try and get some firsthand experiences if possible.
Do you know-
You have to talk to some people on the ground in the country if possible. Talk to some people who have come from the country if possible, and see how they feel about actually living there.
I'm gonna give a really stupid example, but I'm gonna do it. Do you know Madagascar? That movie,
Yep.
Madagascar 2. You have. So there's this scene. You have like a giraffe, a hippo, a lion, and a zebra, and the hippo and the giraffe are saving the Leo and the zebra with a bunch of monkeys. So at some point, the Leo and the zebra are in this bucket. Then you have a trail of monkeys. Have you seen that scene?
No, I'm not. I've watched the movie, but I've really only
So you
ever
have like
watched it once.
you have like a bunch of monkeys holding onto each other like a cord. So they're like holding the bucket with the animals, and the last monkey is holding this plane. You know what I mean? So they're like a cord. Do you understand?
Yep.
Okay, so the giraffe and the hippo are telling the first monkey, to tell the Leo and the zebra in the bucket to tell them something. But there are multiple monkeys, so the first monkey tells the second monkey the message, and the second monkey, the third monkey, so on, so on. And by the time the last monkey has received the message changed completely because we hear stuff differently and we interpret it differently. So it's kind of the same. I had to
Did
think.
you ever play telephone in school? The game telephone.
I'm not sure.
You would all sit in a circle, and the teacher would come around and they would give one of the students a message. Like they would say a sentence.
Yeah, it's like that.
like-
yes.
Right? And then that student would turn to their right and they would tell that person, whisper it in their ear, and then that person would whisper it to the next person. And the game was to see what the message was by the time it got back to the person who started the message.
How it altered.
And it was exactly, and it would almost always alter, and sometimes very drastically.
That says something about this.
It really does.
Interesting, man.
And then when you think of a lot of histories that are presented in oral traditions,
Yeah, of course.
right? And
Complete exchange.
exactly, that's got to be considered because I mean, you know,
The dragon came and flames and whatever.
Yep.
You know what? I
And
think?
and it's dangerous on both ends because there is some truth that gets thrown out because it just doesn't seem legit doesn't seem reasonable with our reality, right? Like the dragons is a good example. Like if I were to tell people that dragons used to fly around in the skies, very few people are going to believe that, right? Like there's going to be some people who would go, yeah, I totally believe that. And then there would be some people who go, oh, that would be really cool. But it's going to be very few who actually think that because it just seems so foreign to us today. But maybe 1,000 years ago or 2,000 or 10,000 years ago, it didn't, right? So that telephone game is a big factor in all of the information sharing that we do.
Did you know that the cowboys talked about metal birds?
Yep,
I think that was really interesting.
definitely.
Should
It's
mean
like
something.
when you start getting into, like, say, Sasquatch research and you start looking at all of the different words that Native American and Native Canadian cultures had for Sasquatch, it's a little bit hard to ignore because, you know, what inspired them to come up with 4,000 names, I'm exaggerating, for Bigfoot, right?
Yeah, it's true. Orang Pendek.
Yep.
Interesting.
So a lot to consider there, and that's why it's important to kind of keep an open mind and always remain loose with your belief system.
That's the message of today. Keep an open mind. But back to the shadow aspects, and especially Teal Swan. What do you think of Teal Swan? Would you recommend her work to people?
Yep, as an option. I don't think any one of us, myself included, is 100% right. So I think it's always important to listen to various points of view.
With her, it's a bit different because she says stuff that she can look through people. What did she say? Right? She says that she can look through people and see their veins and organs and shit. What do you think about that?
Maybe she can. I don't know. I don't have her perception.
Yeah.
I can't.
Yeah.
Maybe she can.
I
That's the way I approach it. I'm
Yeah.
not going to.
But
I'm not going to say she's just saying that to get an audience because I don't know.
But she has abused by how do you call them, the Illuminati as well, right? Or you weren't abused. You just whatever happened to you, but you should be familiar with what happened to her. Do you think that's true? Could it be true based on her story?
I've actually never heard her say that. I don't listen to her a lot. Like I did subscribe to her YouTube channel as you've pointed out, but I don't. Like I've probably listened to less than a handful of her videos.
Okay.
So I don't know her that well. So I've never heard her speak on that matter at all. I did not know that. That's interesting. I'd like to hear what she had to say in that regard. It's funny how little of the alternative media I have listened to. The only reason I know Savalia was because a researcher I was talking to at one point in time had said that some of the things I was saying was the same things that she had said. So then I had gone back and listened to what she said, and then now I use her as a reference point anytime anyone wants to know what, that type of abuse or that type of programming is like. I point them towards her so that I don't have to say it.
Smart. All right, that's interesting, man. I want to do a prediction because we are going to do the astrology thing. I think you have a few Pluto aspects.
What would that mean, or what would that represent?
Well, let's wait until we find out about your chart, and we can go back to that in another podcast.
Fair enough. Well, let's wrap this up. Is there anything that you would like to say to the listening audience? Anything that you would like to kind of leave them with today?
Focus on your own life. Be as practical as possible. Don't stick too much with stories of others. That was it.
Awesome. That's I appreciate that advice. Well, thank you, man. This has been a lot of fun, and we'll definitely have you back, and I'll get you that information. You can let me know off air what you need from me, and we'll get you back when that's all done.
Sure, man. Bye.
Right.
Later,
man. Take care.
The river? Yes, jump in the river. 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 Jump in the river.
We're all born into this river without knowing how to swim, and eventually we learn how to keep the water under our chins. Sometimes this river's so cold to be in, freezing my soul, solidifying my skin. Regardless of how far I see, I never see my travels in. We're carried by the current, being driven by the wind. The scenery we pass will never see again, so we store it up as memories and don't let go of them. We're under a spell thinking that the river should go straight. We set goals and desire to control our own fate, but all the pain we experience is a result of our expectations, cause it's the river's nature to twist and turn. The shit can burn, and I know it. I have the same conflict, but I try to sit and flow with this river's natural process. Sometimes when I watch myself flow downstream, I see the beauty of it all, and it feels like a dream. And at that time I appreciate the river's course. Some call it God, reality, momentum, force. I stare up at the naked moon as she stares down at me. Outside lost boundaries, I'm all I look outward to see. The universe is not something separate from yourself. I know you feel alone, but that's why I'm here to help. I know you feel alone, but just look up at the stars, and everything that is out there is what you really are. We gotta learn to see the beauty in each moment in life. Everyone has different paths, and we're seeking the light. The world is divided between peasants and kings, but the truth is everybody's looking for the same thing. Now I want you to know the role you play's part of the whole. Without you it couldn't be, and I mean that with compassion. So if you ever need anything, I mean anything at all, I'm here for you. All you gotta do is ask, man. I'm here for you, in the same way that you hear from me. Each person is an intricate piece of infinity. I feel like if you could see what I see, then we as humanity could be free. I'm here for you, not for any self-centered reasons, because existence is interdependent and all's related, connected as different manifestations of one single mind. You ain't isolated from the world, even though it feels like that sometimes. I see the hurt when I look into your eyes, how you struggle to hold it and keep it bundled inside. It drives a dull blade deep in my heart, it makes me wanna cry. So I offer you a hand to help you wash away the rainy skies. I'm running out of words, but I haven't yet made my message clear. So if none of this makes sense, I just want you to know I'm here. As a musician, as a friend, as a teacher, as a student, to grow and realize that everything's in constant movement. Each problem that we face is just a part of this movement. It seems hopeless, but if we stick together, we'll get through it and return to the essence from which we've been uprooted, and wake humanity from these illusions. The second you can look into the sky and see your own reflection, you know you're headed in the right direction. The river ride ain't always smooth, but with it I live, and everything is perfect just the way it is. We gotta learn to see the beauty in each moment in life. Everyone has different paths and we're seeking the light. The world is divided between peasants and kings, but the truth is everybody's looking for the same thing. Now I want you to know the role you play's part of the whole. Without you it couldn't be, and I mean that with compassion. So if you ever need anything, I mean anything at all,